Hello everyone. Thank you all for watching the video. Wishing you all good health and peace. The morning in Swan Lap arrived with a quiet sigh. Its breath heavy with the scent of dew-kissed earth and the faint smoke of kitchen fires that curled like prayers into the pale sky. Nuong, a 16-year-old girl with eyes that held the depth of a moonless night, stood in the courtyard of the mistress's house, her hands stained with the green of freshly cut grass, her faded green shirt clinging to her thin frame like a second skin. The air was thick with the promise of heat, the sun climbing slowly over the horizon, casting golden threads across the river that wound through the village like a silver ribbon of dreams. In the distance, the faint crow of a rooster echoed through the village, a reminder of the life that hummed beyond her reach, a life she could only dream of as she fed the cows, there lowing a mournful song that mirrored the ache in her heart. Nuong worked in silence, her hands trembling as she scattered the grass before the cows, her thoughts drifting far beyond the wooden fence that marked the boundary of her prison. She was a captive in the house of a mistress named Bang, a woman whose voice had once been a blade, cutting through her dreams with the sharpness of a winter wind. But today Bang's voice was different, softened by pain and a newfound guilt that had taken root in her heart like a stubborn weed. Bang had fallen the day before, her leg bruised and possibly broken, and in her vulnerability, she had seen Nuong not as a debtor's niece, but as a girl who had cared for her, who had stayed when she could have run, who had shown her a kindness she did not deserve. "How are you, ba?" Nuong asked, her voice a soft whisper, her hands trembling as she scattered the last of the grass, her eyes fixed on the house where Bang lay resting. "She feels better today," she murmured to herself, her heart a tangle of hope and fear, her mind a garden of conflicting emotions, gratitude for the change in Bang's demeanor, suspicion of her intentions, longing for the freedom that seemed so close yet so far. She thought of the day before, of the way Bang had clung to her arm, her face pale with pain, her voice breaking with each cry. "It hurts so much," Bang had said, her hands trembling as Nuong had helped her to a chair, her eyes glistening with tears of agony. "I think the bone has cracked. Oh, it hurts so much." Nuong had fetched the medicine, a small bottle of oil that smelled of camphor and eucalyptus, its scent sharp and medicinal, a reminder of the village healer who had once cared for her when she was sick. She had knelt beside Bang, her hands gentle as she rubbed the oil into the swollen skin, her eyes fixed on the bruise that spread across her shin like a dark cloud. "Don't move, ba," she had said, her voice a soft plea, her heart heavy with the weight of her reality. "Let me do everything. I'll go chop grass for the cows later." Bang had nodded, her hands clutching at the chair, her voice a hiss of pain. "My son is nowhere to be seen," she had said, her eyes glistening with tears of frustration. "That damned boy. Truong might have taken the car and sold it for money to play. If I don't have you now, who can I rely on? Who will take care of me, bring me medicine, food, water?" Nuong had felt a pang of pity, sharp and unexpected, a flower blooming in the barren field of her resentment. She thought of the years she had spent in this house, the endless labor, the hunger, the constant fear of Bang's wrath. But she also thought of the way Bang had looked at her eyes softened by pain, her voice tinged with a gratitude that felt foreign, unfamiliar, like a stranger in the village. "I didn't treat you well before," Bang had said, her voice breaking with the weight of her guilt. "I feel so guilty. Why is my fate so unlucky? You're still so young, and I've made your life so hard." Nuong shook her head, her hands trembling as she returned to the house, her heart heavy with the weight of her thoughts. She thought of the opportunity she had missed, the chance to run that had slipped through her fingers like the river's current. She had thought of escaping that morning, of running to the tent where she had once lived, of finding the melon garden she had planted with such care, its seeds a symbol of her dreams, her hope for a future that seemed so far away. "I don't know if the melons have sprouted," she murmured to herself, her voice a soft lament, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She thought of Chung, of the promise that glowed in his eyes, of the life they might have together, a life where the rain would not seep through the roof, where the river would sing of freedom, not sorrow. She entered the house, her hands trembling as she began to prepare the meal, her eyes fixed on the pot of rice that bubbled softly on the stove, its steam rising like a prayer into the still air. "I didn't have time to eat breakfast before I went to work," she murmured to herself, her stomach growling with hunger, her heart heavy with the weight of her labor. She thought of the way Bang had been that morning, her voice softer, her curses absent, a change that felt strange, unsettling, like a storm that had passed but left the air heavy with the promise of another. "Today is so strange," she whispered, her voice a soft lament, her heart a garden of hope and fear. "I don't know if she has any intention. I don't know if I can trust her." Meanwhile, in a village cradled by the river's bend, Chung sat in his mother's house, his hands stained with the dust of the road, his eyes searching the horizon like a fisherman seeking the shore. The air was heavy with the scent of rain, the sky a canvas of gray clouds that hung low over the village, a quiet promise of a storm. He had been searching for Tieu Nuong for days, his heart a vessel of longing, his mind a storm of worry that threatened to drown him. "I've searched and searched, but I can't find her," he said, his voice breaking with the weight of his failure, his hands trembling as he sat at the table, his mother's eyes soft with concern. "Have you done it my way?" his mother asked, her voice a gentle breeze in the storm of his worry, her hands resting on the table like a bridge between worlds. "I've posted her picture in many public places," Chung replied, his voice heavy with despair, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But until now, I haven't received a single call. I don't know what's wrong with her now. I'm worried she might have been kidnapped." His mother shook her head, her voice soft with reassurance. "Don't think too much, Khan," she said, her hands gesturing to the horizon, her eyes soft as the moonlight on the river. "Maybe she's working somewhere far away, and it's inconvenient to get back. We can ask your brother Kwang to help. He knows many people, and we can even ask the police to intervene." Chung felt a flicker of hope, a fish breaking the surface of the river, his hands trembling as he nodded, his heart a song of love and longing. "I believe she's a gentle, honest girl," he said, his voice a prayer, his eyes fixed on the horizon where the river met the sky. "Such a good person will definitely not encounter anything bad. I just want to find her to know she's safe." His mother nodded, her hands gentle as she patted his shoulder, her voice a soft lullaby. "Tonight Kwang will be here. We'll have dinner together and discuss it further. Don't be discouraged, Khan. Just keep trying and you'll get results." Chung nodded, his heart heavy with worry, his mind consumed by thoughts of Nuong, of the way her laughter had been a melody, of the way her eyes had held the dawn, of the way her presence had been a bridge to a world where love was not a dream but a reality. "I'm tired, me," he said, his voice a soft lament, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I'll go to my room and rest. Please wake me for dinner." His mother nodded, her hands gentle as she watched him go, her heart heavy with the weight of his sorrow, her mind a garden of hope and fear. Back at the house in Swan Lap, Tieu Nuong returned from the field, her hands stained with the green of freshly cut grass, her eyes fixed on the horizon where the sun dipped low, casting golden threads across the river. The air was heavy with the scent of cooked rice, the faint tang of boiled eggs, a meal she had prepared with care, her stomach growling with hunger as she entered the house. "I'm home, Ba," she called, her voice a soft whisper, her heart a tangle of hope and fear. Bang sat up in bed, her face pale with pain, her eyes softened by a gratitude that felt foreign, unfamiliar, like a stranger in the village. "I was worried," Bang said, her voice breaking with the weight of her guilt, her hands trembling as she gestured to the table. "Your leg hurts so much. I couldn't go to the market, so I just prepared these dishes for now. Tonight, I'll cook something more delicious." Tieu Nuong nodded, her hands trembling as she set the table, her heart heavy with the weight of her reality. "I haven't eaten anything since this morning," she said, her voice a soft lament, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Bang's eyes softened, her hands gesturing to the chair beside her. "Come here, child," she said, her voice a soft plea, her heart a garden of guilt and gratitude. "Sit and eat with me. You don't have to go out there anymore. I've been thinking, until now I felt like money isn't as valuable as I thought. Moral value is the most precious thing. People won't have a happy life if they don't have a conscience. I've treated you so badly, and I feel so guilty. Please forgive me." Tieu Nuong felt a pang of surprise, sharp and unexpected, a flower blooming in the barren field of her resentment. She thought of the years she had spent in this house, the endless labor, the hunger, the constant fear of Bang's wrath. But she also thought of the way Bang had looked at her, her eyes softened by pain, her voice tinged with a sincerity that felt foreign, unfamiliar, like a new dawn in the village. "Don't think too much, Ba," she said, her voice a soft whisper, her heart a tangle of hope and fear. From now on, consider this as your house, Bang said, her hands trembling as she gestured to the table, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. You can go wherever you want, visit your hometown, your melon garden, anywhere. I won't force you to pay that debt anymore. Just come back to me. Tieu Nuong nodded, her heart heavy with the weight of her thoughts, her mind a garden of hope and fear. She thought of the melon garden she had planted, its seeds a symbol of her dreams, her hope for a future that seemed so far away. I miss my garden, she said, her voice a soft lament, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I don't know if the melons have sprouted. I'd like to visit the tent for a bit. Bang nodded, her hands gentle as she patted Tieu Nuong's arm, her voice a soft lullaby. When you get back, tell me about it, she said, her eyes soft with a newfound tenderness, her heart a garden of guilt and gratitude. Let's eat and not talk about sadness anymore. You should eat more, child. Tieu Nuong nodded, her hands trembling as she sat at the table, her heart heavy with the weight of her reality, her mind consumed by thoughts of Chung, of the promise that glowed in his eyes, of the life they might have together. A life where the rain would not seep through the roof, where the river would sing of freedom, not sorrow. Why is she so strange today? She whispered to herself, her voice a soft lament, her heart a garden of hope and fear. I don't know if I can trust her, but I'll eat a lot tonight and maybe tomorrow I'll go to my garden. Would Chung find her, his flame piercing the storm of her suffering? Or would his worry consume him, leaving him lost in the shadows of his own despair? Would Tieu Nuong find the strength to trust Bang's change of heart, to take the freedom she offered, to return to her melon garden and the life she dreamed of with Chung? The river offered no answers, only its mournful song, and the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden threads across the village, a whisper of a dawn that might yet come. For now Tieu Nuong had the house, the meal, and the memory of a man whose love was her light, a flame that flickered in the storm, a promise that whispered of freedom, a hope that refused to die.